we're adding and subtracting decimals. Our instructions for today, we're going to add or subtract and also estimate to check whether each answer is reasonable. So example 1, if I had 5 and 37/100ths and I want to add to it 16 and 45/100ths. Now in order to add or subtract decimals, you will line the decimals up. So I'll take 5.37 and I'm going to line up the decimals and add 16.45. And as I add, 5 plus 7 gives me 12. 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 1 gives me 8. 6 plus 5 gives me 11, and 1 plus 1 gives me 2. And when you add and subtract decimals, after you add and subtract, then you just bring the decimal down. So the answer is 21 and 82/100ths, 21.82. Then it asks me to estimate to check whether each answer is reasonable. So in order to estimate, I'm going to round these two numbers to the nearest whole number. All right, in order to round 5.37 to the nearest whole, I'm going to look at the digit that's sitting to the right of 1's place. I have a 3. In order for me to increase this to a 6, this would have to be a 5, 6, 7, or 8. So this rounded to the nearest whole would be a 5. When I round this to the nearest whole, again, I'll look at 10ths place. This 6 remains the same, so that rounded gives me 16. So my estimated answer is 21, and that is close to that 21.82. Example 2. If I had a negative 5 and 62/100ths, and I want to add to it a negative 12 and 9/10ths. Again, in order to add or subtract decimals, you line the decimals up. If you go back to your rules, when we taught the rules for integers, these two numbers have the same sign. The rules will apply no matter what set of numbers you're dealing with. So these have the same sign, so I need to add them. So I'll take the 5 and 62/100ths, line the decimals up, I'll have 12.9. And as I add, I'll get a 2. 9 plus 6 gives me 15. 2 plus 5 gives me 7, plus 1 gives me 8. Bring that 1 down, bring the decimal down. Both numbers are negative, so that means that my answer is going to be negative. So my answer is a negative 18.52. Now, as far as estimating is concerned, as I estimate here, 5.62, I'm going to look at 10ths place. That 6 is enough to increase this by 1. So round it to the nearest whole. 5.62 would become a 6. 12.9, again, looking at the 9, which is in 10ths place. That is enough to increase this 2 to become a 3, so I'll have a 13. So my estimated answer is 19. That 18.52 is close to 19. So that makes that a reasonable answer. And again, that would be negative because both of those are negative. Example 3. On example 3, if I had 7.89 and I want to subtract 5.91, again, line the decimals up. So I'll have 7.89. I'm going to subtract 5.91. Now, one mistake students make is that they forget what operation they're performing. So always remember the operation we're subtracting. So 9 minus 1 gives us 8, right? That's an 8, so I'm going to go here, take 1 whole from there. That makes that a 6. That's an 18. 18 minus 9 gives me 9. And 6 minus 5 gives me 1. Bring the decimal down. So my exact answer for this is 1.98. As we estimate 7.8, that will become an 8. 5.9, that will become a 6. When I subtract, I get a 2. And 1.98 is close to 2. So my estimated answer is 2. The exact answer is 1.98. Example 4. If I have 4.97 and I want to subtract 3.2, again, line the decimals up. Remember that you're subtracting. Bring this 7 down. 9 minus 2 gives you 7. 4 minus 3 gives you 1. So you get an answer of 1.77. Example 5. If I had 14 minus 8.9. Now 14 is a whole number. A whole number has a decimal. So the decimal for 14 is here. I'm going to line the decimals up. I'm doing subtraction. I need something to subtract that 9 from, so I'm going to add a 0 as I go here, and I'm going to rename this. This becomes a 3. Do some regrouping here. 10 minus 9 gives me 1, right? Here. That's going to be a 13, and 13 minus 8 gives me 5. So the answer is 5 1/10. As I estimate, this is still a 14. 8.9, that 9 is enough for that to become a 9. When I subtract, I get a 5. That's my estimated answer. That's my exact answer. Example 6. I want to make sure we do enough examples so that you won't be confused about anything. Example 6, if I had 33 minus 10.23. Again, 33 is a whole number. The whole number has a decimal. The decimal is here. Line the decimals up. I need to subtract. I need something to subtract the 2 and the 3 from, so I'm going to add some zeros. Okay? I'm going to go here, and this becomes a 2. That's a 10. Now that becomes a 9. That's a 10. Now let's subtract. 10 minus 3 gives us 7. 9 minus 2 gives us 7. 2 minus 0 gives us 2. And 3 minus 1 gives us 2. And bring the decimal down. So my exact answer is 22.77. Now for my estimated answer, I'll have that 33. That's 10.23. That 2 is not enough for me to increase that, so that becomes a 10. When I subtract, I get a 23. 22.77 is real close to 23, so my answer is reasonable. My estimated answer is 23. The exact answer is 22.77. Example 7. If I had 5 and 23 hundredths minus a negative 9 1/10. Again, let's go back to our rules for subtraction. To subtract a number, you add its opposite. So I need to add these two numbers. Line the decimals up. Add. I get a 3. I get a 3. And 9 plus 5 gives me 14. Bring the decimal down. So my answer is 14.33. Okay. Estimate. This estimated would be a 5. This to the nearest whole is a 9. So I get 14. The estimated answer is 14. The exact answer is 14 33 hundredths. Example 8. And this is our last example for addition and subtraction. If I had 5 and 9/10 minus 10 plus 2 and 84 hundredths. Remember, we only deal with two numbers at a time. So 5.9 minus 10, I need to subtract these two numbers. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the 10, which has a decimal here, subtract the 5 and 9/10. I'm doing subtraction, so I need to add a 0. Go here. That's a 9, that's a 1. So I have a 10 minus 9, which is 1. 9 minus 5 gives me 4. This has the greatest absolute value, so that gives me a negative 4 and 1/10 plus the 2 and 84 hundredths. Again, remembering our rules, these have unlike signs, so I need to subtract. So I'll take the 4 and 1/10 and subtract the 2 and 84 hundredths. I need to subtract, so I'll go here. That becomes a 10. 0, that becomes a 10. Let me put this here. So that's a 10. 10 minus 4 gives us 6. That's a 3. 10 minus 8 gives us 2. And 3 minus 2 gives us 1. So we should have, that has the greatest absolute value. It's negative. Our answers are negative 1 and 26 hundredths. To estimate 5.9, estimated would be 6. So I'd have 6 minus 10 plus 2.84 to the nearest whole would be a 3. Then I'll have 6 minus 10, which is a negative 4. And a negative 4 plus 3 gives me a negative 1. So my estimated answer is a negative 1. My exact answer is a negative 1 and 26 hundredths.